By the 1960s, there was considerable progress, yet inaccurate testing methods had changed little in 30 years.
There was no blood tests for blood glucose in those days unless you went to the hospital and had it done. Urine testing was done with a test tube with Benedict solution in it, 1 inch of Benedict solution. I think from memory it was about 5 drops of urine you used to have to put into it, and then you'd bring it to the boil, not quite to the boil, on a Bunsen burner, and it would change colour according to the amount of glucose you had in your system at the time, and you'd measure that against a chart. Barbaric. Now, it was very hit and miss, because as with the knowledge we have nowadays, it was just a very, very poor way of judging your diabetic glucose levels. It was so inaccurate.
Totally misleading and inaccurate, soul-destroying to the person who wanted to do the right thing and then found that there was really no way of testing properly.
In 1978, Stan and Audrey Clark took their young child, Lisa, on a regular basis to Camperdown Hospital. But this time was different.
When Lisa was round about 10 or 11, she had this massive coma. So it was a bit traumatic, so she was rushed into hospital. The hospitals had these big machines, and the doctor said, "Oh, we better let you try this."
We sent Lisa with one of these reflectance meters home. And I remember very well, at the end of the weekend, Stan and Audrey with their daughter Lisa came back and handed the meter back to me. And I said, "It didn't work out, huh?" And they said it was terrific. In fact, it was so good that they pulled the meter apart, worked out how it worked, and they said, "We can build our own much cheaper."
Oh, it probably took him a week or two.
We took it to the doctor, and now it's Professor Schilling, and he looked at the machine, and he decided that he'd put it through the tests, and he did, and it came out with flying colours. So then he asked if Stan would make 30 for the children that were on brittle diabetes, like Lisa. We had no facilities or anything, so we did it on our kitchen table. And then the hospital then wanted more and more, so we had to make 200 and something for the children in the hospital. Well, then with having to make 200, we had to get a little factory, and it was in DY, and it was next door to a fish shop. So the smell wasn't real good.
Once you'd bought a glucose tester for $99 back then, that's all you paid for as far as Dad was concerned.
And within 6 months, the whole clinic, with Stan Clark's help, was on home blood glucose monitoring.
We stayed in it for 13 years, and we actually produced a strip of our own, an Australian strip.
All the tests had been done, accuracy was perfect. Within half an hour of me letting that news out, the big boss from one of the companies had phoned Dad from overseas and said, "Stan, you release that strip, you'll be out of business in 6 months." Dad was out of business in 6 months. Probably the biggest one of all was an Order of Australia award. That was just remarkable. He deserved every little bit of that award.
And then he got a medal in Geneva. He's in the Great Minds of the 21st Century in America. He won a prize on What'll They Think of Next.
What'll they think of next?
Stan Clark, the inventor, told us about his invention.
The system is very simple. In fact, the whole system was designed for the use by very young children. A small drop of blood is taken out of the end of a finger and placed on the activated pad of a reagent strip. the glucose in the blood reacts on a chemical that is impregnated in the reagent strip, and this causes a colour change in a dye. The change of colour of this dye is a direct measurement of the glucose in the blood.
Welcome, Stan. Nice to have you with us. The little girl in the film, that was your daughter, I believe,
yes,
wasn't it?
Yes, that's Lisa. She's 12 now. She's been diabetic since she was 5.
And this obviously was the reason that you, went down into your workshop down below and invented this thing?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, well, it sounds a tremendous idea, and from your point of view, obviously works very well, doesn't it?
Yes, well, the Children's Hospital in Sydney, the Royal Alexandra Hospital for Children, has completely converted over to this system now, and they're the only hospital in the world that's been able to do that.
That is great. Nev, it is a good idea,
It is
isn't
a very good idea, and your contribution, Stan, has been the portability of the instrument.
Yes, I didn't invent the strip testing system, but what I did was brought it out of the realms of just the highly trained medical personnel and just put it in so a 4-year-old child can operate
the domestic cell.
Is it powered by electricity or batteries, or can it be both?
It can be both. There's a little transformer that comes with it. This is similar to a calculator type transformer, but we have it specially made, Australian, of course, and it has little batteries in the bottom. You can take this bottom off there, and you can ordinary dry batteries, ordinary flashlight batteries, and also we have a little adapter that you can plug into a cigarette lighter of a car.
Really?
It must help parents a lot in terms of how they feel about the testing if it's so accurate.
Well, I dedicated this to the children of the world and for the International Year of the Child, and the children call it the vampire machine because it's sensible.
Actually,
but it really now I call it the mums and dads machine, because the sense of security that it gives those people is enormous, and also grown-ups. I know of 9 people that have been able to go to Europe for a holiday.
Because they can take that with them. Stan, I mean, it's a great idea, and I think you ought to be talking to the Department of Trade and Resources, help you with the export side of this, because you've got a world market for it, chum. You really have. Anyway, well, think about it. Before we do score on Stan's invention, I'll just recap. The trolley gave a score of 254, the baby seat 228. Now let's start with Neville scoring on Stan's invention, please.
Stan, I've given you 90. I think it really is going to contribute quite significantly into improving the standard of life.
And Lorraine?
I've given you 90 as well. I think it's a tremendous benefit to the community and the world.
And Vic?
90, I think, like you, Jeff, it's a world market and it's really worth doing.
All right, well, Stan, that gives you a score of 270.
What'll they think of next?
And then in the finals, it came in second or something.
The winner. This prize is shared by 2 people, Stan Clark for his diabetic tester and Joan Stuckey's Push Cush.
He was always very humble, very, very humble. And he did everything out of the goodness of his heart to help other people.
I've got that many letters saying that he'd changed the lives. I'm getting emotional myself now. And we had a lady who'd sent one to. She couldn't get one because the children were first and she was pregnant, and her mum phoned and she said, could you please send her one, because she'd had 2 or 3 miscarriages. So he dropped everything, got one ready and sent it to Canberra. A few months later, this lady walked in with a baby in a pram, and she brought it. I'm upset again now. She brought it, she said, this is up to you. Oh, and he also made one for a blind girl in Melbourne, and she couldn't see, so he made it play music. And then she couldn't do a finger prick, so he started to make a finger prick for her, so she could do it.
And I actually think that he revolutionised blood glucose monitoring globally, because what he did was bring it down to a reasonable price so that people could start to afford blood glucose monitoring and move away from urine testing.
Stan Clark had the concept that this could be miniaturised and made portable for patient use rather than just professional use. and was a major contributor to the early development.
It was a revolution at the time, and we're talking about 1978, 1979.
It was a great contribution, yes.
I think my dad created one of the greatest things in a diabetic's life, and that is the ability to be able to manage your own glucose levels.
He didn't have an ego, he was a gentleman, and he was just, had a lot of compassion for people. He was just wonderful. He was gorgeous.